Hey, what is up guys? More360 is here and welcome back to another video. So the LG G4 has been out on the market for about 4 months after its debut, and I think at the 4 months mark it's a good time for me to take a look at the device again and give you guys more of a long-term review, which I think is very helpful to a lot of consumers out there. But anyways, with recent announcements from manufacturers like Motorola, Samsung, as well as the impending launch of the new iPhone, how well has the LG G4 aged? How's the overall performance and experience when it's not shiny and new anymore? Well, let's find out in my full video review as we revisit the LG G4 4 months later. Stay tuned. So for this video, my structure and format is pretty simple. I'm going to discuss with you what's awesome, what I like about the phone, and of course I'm also going to cover some of its shortcomings and needs for improvement. The biggest change with how I've used my G4 since my initial review is the addition of these leather back covers. One of my complaints in the initial review was that the G4 kind of feels cheap with all that plastic, but now after using the leather backs, it feels a lot more like a premium phone as it should be. I have the orange one on here, which looks really nice, and so here are some of the other colors, and the size of the patinas will vary, as you can tell, depending on the color you get. LG says the type of leather that were used to make these backs is handcrafted, genuine, full grain. Even to this day, checks pretty much all of the boxes for all of the things that you would want to have in a smartphone. It's got a beautiful Quad HD 5.5-inch Quantum IPS display with excellent color reproduction and accuracy, and I just found out recently that the display is calibrated to DCI standards for color expression used actually by top Hollywood studios. So the display is still excellent, which makes watching videos and playing games a blast. Though I will say the screen doesn't get as bright as some of its competitors, which makes it a little bit difficult to see under direct sunlight, and it doesn't get as dim either. It's not a big deal, and overall my opinions in regard to the display has not changed from my initial review, and it remains to be one of the best smartphone displays ever created. In terms of hardware, everything's fine. The G4 does not bend, in case you were wondering. I've taken good care of the G4 by using screen protectors and cases, so once you wipe off some of the dirt and fingerprints, it looks brand spanking new. Again, fantastic for media consumption, and it's really comfortable to hold and easy to grip thanks to that subtle curvature. But for me, it's a little bit big for my hands, at least in terms of single-handed usage. But again, this is just for me personally, since my hands are not the biggest. So I use the G4 mostly at home as kind of a mini tablet. When I'm out on the road, I usually resort to something smaller, around 5-inch, 5.1 inches is the sweet spot for me. Don't really have anything else to say about the hardware. The rear keys are easy to get used to and easy to use. The position of the speaker is not ideal, it's backfiring, but the quality and the volume is okay. Moving on to software, it runs LG's UX 4.0 skin over Android 5.1 Lollipop. The interface is clean, modern, and it still runs very fluid and fast. I've noticed very little lag or stuttering, if any at all, during my time using it, and so far the software has not bogged down over time, and hopefully it can stay that way. Some apps do crash occasionally, but that's not LG's problem, because all Android phones experience it to some degree. But LG wasn't kidding when they said Qualcomm worked with them closely to make sure that the software and hardware are fine-tuned and optimized perfectly, and that translates to a very pleasant user experience even after 4 months. But LG's track record with software updates is questionable, and I have yet to receive a single update for my G4 even after 4 months. But LG is making strides here with the promise of frequent security updates because of the stage fright vulnerability, and hopefully LG can deliver the Android M update before the end of 2015 when it comes out later this year. Oh, and the camera remains to be one of its best features. A 16 megapixel rear camera and 8 megapixel selfie camera capable of producing some beautiful pictures and videos. Manual mode was kind of cool at first, but I haven't really used it much since. I'm fine with just using auto mode to take pictures. So the G4 probably has one of the best cameras in a smartphone, if not the best. Battery life and endurance has been steady over these past 4 months. I usually get 5.5 hours of screen on time, and it gets me through the day just fine. And if that's not the case for you, you can always swap out the battery or use a quick charger to rapidly recharge. Having the ability to add up to 2 terabytes of additional storage has come in handy because the 32 gigs of internal storage wasn't quite enough. So on the whole, after 4 months of use, the G4 has held up pretty well. If you're someone who is looking to buy a flagship device today at a cheaper price than some of its competitors, the G4 should be near the top of your list thanks to recent price cuts from carriers like T-Mobile, where you can pick up a G4 for only $480 full retail. But with the rumored LG G4 Pro on the horizon, carrying some beastly specs, including a Snapdragon 820 and possibly a new design, you'll probably want to wait picking up a G4 this fall. Even if the G4 turns out to be superior in some ways to whatever the rumored G4 Pro ends up being, you'll almost certainly get a better deal on the older phone once the new one hits shelves. So if you don't have one already, I'm going to recommend you wait a bit. If you do, you can still feel good about owning one of the best Android phones of 2015.